So what if I ran HomeKit and home software at Apple? Now, don't worry, I'm not leaving YouTube anytime soon, and I'm not even really saying that I'm qualified to do that, but I have worked professionally as an iOS app developer building third-party apps for iPhone and iPad for over 10 years, and I've worked on software teams, large and small, so I think I have a pretty good idea about some of the things that might go into it and just ways that I think it would just make it easier for us all to get more out of the Home app and HomeKit. People often say that the Home app is so good compared to the apps from other smart home platforms, but there's still plenty of room for improvement in my opinion. So the first one for me is just alternate names for scenes. Now, I go around my home and tell my HomePod to trigger different scenes in my home, and that is great for setting up exactly what I want for, let's say, waking my children up, putting my children to bed, getting ready for work in the morning, and all the things in between. But with that, I have to remember that specific scene name, and as I'm always changing and evolving my setup here, my family has trouble keeping up with those changing scene names, and it would be really nice to be able to assign alternate scene names. That way, if someone in my family maybe says something that's just a little bit different, like a go to sleep scene instead of a good night scene or whatever, then it's still gonna pick up with it and trigger the exact scene that we're both looking for. Now, one quick tip on this: if you have people coming into your home who might not be familiar with your smart home setup, what we've done for things like people taking care of our children, maybe in a babysitting type scenario, is to print out what exactly to read to the HomePod for different things with the children and putting them to bed. And that way, whoever's just reading the text on the wall, they'll say the right thing to the HomePod to trigger the scene to get it to work. That can be a nice way to give them a shortcut, maybe put it in a guest bedroom, and they're gonna be able to know what to do with all this smart home tech around your home. But with that, one of the easiest automations that anybody can get the hang of when talking to a voice assistant or whatever to control your home is just turn on the lights and turn off the lights. And that's great when you talk to a HomePod, because the HomePod knows what room it's in. And so if you tell that HomePod to do it, then it's going to do that for that specific room. And with that, I think it would be really nice to have a way to customize what the lights on and lights off states look like for a particular room, and also with that, maybe even customizing it based on time of day. So then if it's late in the evening, maybe you want lights on to be a little bit dimmer than first thing in the morning. And along those same lines, maybe you've added something like nanoleaf lines behind me, or light strips, or other kinds of accent lights, and you don't necessarily want those on all the time when you're just turning on the main lights in the room. And so this way you could make sure that those aren't going to turn on when you just ask the HomePod to turn on the lights, and they just come on during other scenes for specific things like watching a movie or a date night or whatever else. Now, when you go in the Home app to set up a new scene or an automation or something, you'll get presented with this Add Accessory screen. It's modal view that pops up, and it's pretty well designed in that you have these sections where you have each room in your home, and so you can quickly go through all of the accessories across the different rooms in your home. But when you have a bunch of accessories and you have to scroll through that list, it gets really old really fast. So what I'd love to see is, why not just put a search bar at the top of that screen? At least if you have above a certain number of accessories, or different other parameters, add a search bar at the top there so we can quickly filter what we're looking for and then add those to that automation or scene. Now, one of the other things I talked about in my recent video on the Eve water guard with critical notifications there is just that a lot of the notifications from the Home app can easily look the same. They all have the Home app icon, and there's just a lot of text there. They've done a good job in adding the images from a HomeKit secure video camera or doorbell to your watch if you get a notification there. But still, there's been some other improvements to notifications in iOS, specifically around messaging, where with messaging apps you can see the user's profile picture in the notification on the screen rather than having the icon of the app all the time, and even thread notifications into specific conversations so that you can see stacks related to different conversations on your home screen and not just be barraged by a big stack from that one app you use for messaging. And I think there's something along these lines that Apple could do with the Home app and other apps to split out notifications more, so that maybe your notifications for the Home app are coming on a room by room basis, and there are ways to sort of carry in color differences or icon differences between the different rooms into the notification UI, so that you're not just seeing the Home app icon 100 times with a wall of text you'd have to read to make sense of. There's certain things like time-sensitive notifications and critical notifications that the Home app is already taking advantage of, and those do help somewhat, especially if you have something really important like a pipe leaking. But I just think there's more that could be done there, especially because the Home app is part of Apple, and so you know, they could probably go down the hallway and talk to the notification team, or on the other side of Apple Park, wherever it is. You get the idea. Now, another thing with scenes, because I love scenes, but there's so much room for improvement there, is adding emoji icons for them. Because right now with scenes, all you can do is assign just really basic house icons. It's just like the dullest, most boring set of icons ever. And so please just let us put emoji there in a similar way to if you've ever used the app Notion, where you can assign an emoji icon to a particular page. Be really nice to do the same kind of thing with a scene in HomeKit. And of course, I'm sure you're probably already writing in the comments that you could potentially use emoji in some of the text around the Home app. And I honestly haven't ever even tried that, because I'm just scared that something in the bowels of HomeKit will get messed up if I put emoji in some of that text, and then I try and talk to Siri and it won't know what I'm talking about because of the weird, you know, Unicode characters for the emojis. Maybe that's just the developer in me limiting myself from a great experience. But if we could just assign emoji there to scenes, just a lot of different options there that would make it so nice to personalize what those scenes mean. Now, the next on my list is a much improved Mac app for Home. So right now, it's so nice that we actually have the Home app on Mac, and as I work from home on my Mac, I really do enjoy quickly opening up the Home app and toggling a scene or checking on a camera. But it'd be so much nicer if it didn't look like just a copy and paste version of the iPad app. It just, they've done like zero work to make that thing look at home on the Mac. So I'd love to see them do a lot more polish to make the Home app look good on the Mac and be fast, adding things like I talked about earlier and adding accessory, just adding things like search bars and better keyboard shortcuts and improved navigation for more of a Mac style navigation and things, just making the Mac app much better, especially I think for people using their Macs at home. It's so nice to be able to quickly whip that app open and do something with your home. And as you get a bigger home, managing a bigger home on a Mac just makes a lot of sense there. So I'd love to see them do a lot of improvements to the Mac Home app. And I'd love on top of that to do things like some third-party developers have done with adding menu bar apps there, so you could just have something in your menu bar to quickly control certain things in your home. Now, the next one on my list is to have home screen widgets that would show the values of certain sensors or cameras you have around your home. So maybe just getting the latest image from a particular camera, just like you can on the home screen of the Home app. Why not see it right there in the home screen of your iOS device? Or also getting the values of sensors, because there's no easy way to refresh that in the background. Of course, the Home app is tied into the operating system in certain ways, or they work at the same company. So why can't they make it that HomeKit can update in the background so widgets can also show values without you having to open the app? And whether that's something they just enable in HomeKit for third-party apps to take advantage of, or they actually make it work for the Home app itself, I would love to see improvements there for widgets to be able to get values of sensors like temperature sensors. Now, the last one on my list is, in my opinion, if Apple did nothing else in a year improving the Home app and HomeKit, I would be happy if they just did this, and that's improving the performance of the Home app and HomeKit. Because right now, if you go trigger a giant scene, let's say you're getting ready for bed and you trigger a goodnight scene that turns off all the lights in your home, locks the doors, makes sure the garage doors close, that's communicating across a ton of different accessories probably multiple different smart home vendors involved there. And so there's gonna be some latency and a lot of different variables, but I think that the Home app could navigate that better and just get to the end faster. And then more importantly, show you better information if you're interested in sort of long pressing or digging into the details of what just happened there with that scene, showing which devices respond quickly and which devices took longer to respond. And getting that data would help you troubleshoot maybe which devices are the problem and looking into their, let's say, Wi-Fi signal quality or other stuff. Now, besides this, I've been doing a bunch of troubleshooting myself and improving the speed of my HomeKit smart home, and I'll be working on a video sometime soon about improving the speed of your smart home. So be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss that. But with this speed improvement, I think that shortcuts could also get a boost, in that right now, if you try and trigger a big scene in shortcuts as an action, it will wait for that scene to finish before it goes on to other actions in the shortcut. And why can't it just trigger the scene and then instantly move on to your other actions? And then maybe if the scene fails or something, then you can show an error. But I'd rather have options in the home action and shortcuts to mute all errors always. For if I'm triggering a big scene, there's probably going to be something that fails, especially with a YouTuber like me always adding and experimenting with things in my smart home. There's going to be something that goes wrong. So just mute all errors for this action in shortcuts. And then also an option to, if you really need the scene to finish before you go on to other shortcut actions, wait for the scene to finish. But by default, it would just send that message off to HomeKit and then immediately go on to the next actions in your shortcut. As you can see there with performance, it's not necessarily just engineering technical performance. There's also the user experience side there to make things feel faster to the user and give the user more details of what might be going wrong so that you could look into it a little bit more later. Now, if you're just as excited as me about what's coming to Apple smart home tech in 2022, speaking of annual traditions, like I do this kind of video every year, I also do a video about what came out at CES and what to look forward to in 2022 or whatever year with Apple HomeKit. So I have that video for this year linked somewhere here on the screen. Thanks again so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.